Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Swallowed Star 2, Land of Origin. Volume 12, Lord Luo Feng. Chapter 427 Combat Technique. Second of Volume 12. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. I believe that, with the strength of our practitioner faction, the 3,600 world cluster is far too few. Lord Negu, with his deep azure skin, said, we are now capable of dominating 8,000 world clusters. Hey, Negu, weren't you always saying we'd lose in war? Lord Jin retorted, his golden, scaled tail swaying lazily. He chuckled mischievously, and now you're the first to demand we go to war. I've always believed that power should match territory, Lord Negu replied. Before Luo Feng's emergence, the 7 of us were indeed too weak to even contend with the Ice Peak faction, let alone the innate Xuanhuan lifeform faction. And the outcome also proved this, the world clusters fell one after another. It's not that we seek war, Yuan interjected, the innate Xuanhuan lifeform faction sought to annihilate our foundations. We had no choice but to fight. I understand. It's all because we were weak. Even if we were willing to compromise, they still wanted to uproot us completely, Lord Negu said with a smile, but things are different now. Luo Feng has mastered 2 Xuanhuan-level Daos. And they're the combat-oriented life and destruction Daos. A single lord is now equivalent to 2 Shajo. Our overall strength has surpassed the Ice Peak faction, and we can now pose a real threat to the innate Xuanhuan lifeform faction. The innate Xuanhuan lifeform faction controls half of the valuable territory in the infinite Xuanhuan space. The Ice Peak faction holds 20%, yet we only have 10. This is completely disproportionate to our strength, Lord Negu said. The infinite Xuanhuan space also contains vast dark desert territories where resources are practically non-existent. The innate Xuanhuan lifeform faction's 50% occupation refers only to the valuable territory. Our 10% of territory contains the densest concentration of origin worlds, Lord Wulan said. In terms of sheer number, we have more origin worlds than the Ice Peak faction. Everyone, calm down, Yuan said. All eyes turned to Yuan. Everyone was still willing to listen to him. My Xuanhuan rule circulation path is nearing a breakthrough, Yuan said with a faint smile. Let's wait until after the breakthrough to make any decisions. A breakthrough. Lord Mingwang, Lord Momen, Lord Jin, Lord Wulan, and the other lords were visibly excited. The lords all knew that in terms of direct combat prowess, Luo Feng was currently the most ferocious and powerful. When it came to mastery of space-time and flawless strategy, Lord Xingmeng naturally excelled. But in terms of overall importance to the entire faction, Yuan was paramount. His formations could combine the Xuanhuan level Dao of each lord, creating a perfect battle formation that multiplied their collective strength several times over. This was what allowed the lords to contend against the armies of both the innate Xuanhuan lifeform faction and the Ice Peak faction. How long will it take? Lord Jin asked. At least tens of thousands of epochs, or at most millions of epochs, Yuan replied. The lords' hearts swelled with relief. The fact that Yuan could give a specific timeframe meant he was utterly confident in his breakthrough. Tens of thousands to millions of epochs. For beings of their level, such a span was nothing but a fleeting moment. Then we'll wait, Lord Mingwang said. Once Yuan breaks through, our collective strength will surge, and our expansion efforts will meet far less resistance. Lord Xingmeng observed the scene unfolding before him. Luo Feng has finally become the strongest entity in the infinite Xuanhuan space, capable of facing opponents head-on. Brother Yuan is also on the verge of breaking through. Everything seems perfect, Lord Xingmeng thought, but in reality, for countless ages to come. There's no sign of any new lord breaking through. He observed countless timelines through his countless clones. It was certain that none of the current world-level Xuanhuan lifeforms in the practitioner faction had any hope of becoming lords. He also examined the invincible realm existences, trapped within the cage who had been brought to the land of origin. Their talent paled in comparison to even Lord Negu, let alone Luo Feng. They had no hope either. The 9th lord remained a distant dream. Because of recent enhancements to the faction's strength, their fighting spirit is soaring. Luo Feng has already intercepted all world-level Xuanhuan from the origin world devourer. His ambitions must be even greater now, Lord Xingmeng sighed inwardly, but no matter how vast the territory are conquered, it must also be defended. How much territory can 8 lords defend? Lord Xingmeng watched silently. At least when faced with a powerful external enemy, the lords can set aside their differences and unite. The days when the lords stand united are good ones. Lord Xingmeng cherished this era deeply. Near the origin continent and the origin world lies the mysterious blood crane territory, where Luo Feng was in secluded cultivation, creating combat techniques. On one hand, he occasionally needed to test his techniques in the abyss of destruction, where he could easily pierce through 2 or 3 layers of the chaos destruction realm. On the other hand, creating combat techniques naturally required secrecy. Within the blood crane territory, which he controlled, he could completely isolate himself from any prying eyes. Boom tilde tilde tilde. A terrifying destructive force erupted deep within the blood crane territory. Wave after wave of great destruction surged forth, some even surpassing the power of the great origin destruction he had unleashed during the faction wars. Abandoned flexibility for extreme destructive power. Luo Feng sought to combine the Xuanhuan Life and Death Dao and the Xuanhuan Blade Dao to create a suitable combat technique. The first technique he aimed to develop was the Origin Destruction Combat Technique, which had proven so effective in the past. Now, his mastery of energy had greatly improved, allowing a single unit of power to unleash far greater destructive force. Even the destruction from information formed by 360 million origin cores rivaled the power of his previous great origin destruction. Time flowed like water as Luo Feng conducted countless experiments. After 300 epochs of relentless effort, he finally perfected his first Origin Destruction Combat Technique. This combat technique comprised 9 moves. The first 3 were common killing techniques, each capable of being executed every 1 or 2 breaths. The remaining 6, however, were forbidden techniques that unleashed 1.8 billion origin cores in various ways. Each use of these forbidden techniques would drastically weaken the user. Yet their power was 3 to 4 times greater than that of the previous Great Origin Destruction. The Great Origin Destruction had already represented the pinnacle of power within the infinite Xuanhuan space. Even Shazhou's ultimate killing technique only reached 70 to 80% of the power of Luo Feng's original techniques. But now, it was 3 to 4 times stronger. From now on, what difference does it make if I'm facing a group? I can crush a horde of Xuanhuan ancestors single-handedly. The Origin Destruction Combat Technique is specifically designed for group combat. Time to develop the next combat technique. Luo Feng began working on the second combat technique, the Life-Severing Combat Technique. This technique operates silently, neither slicing through matter nor energy. Instead, it targets the profound and mysterious vitality, the very essence of life itself. The greatest flaw of the life-severing combat technique is that the maximum energy it could channel through vitality is fixed. Luo Feng had to find a way to enhance the destructive power of severing life force. This combat technique, though seemingly unimpressive, would prove remarkably effective in critical moments. After over 200 epochs, Luo Feng perfected his second combat technique. The third combat technique, the Shadow Blade Technique. A blade like a shadow, guaranteed to strike. To achieve absolute accuracy, the power of the blade technique had to be perfectly controlled, limiting its overall destructive force. This blade technique could strike enemies across vast distances. Even across multiple world clusters, Luo Feng could unleash his blade. Of course, the greater the distance, the higher the difficulty and the weaker the blade's power. But the immense range of this technique made it invaluable. Enemies would find it extremely difficult to escape Luo Feng's pursuit entirely. The fourth combat technique, the Destruction Blade Technique. A close-range combat technique. It doesn't prioritize accuracy, it seeks to destroy everything in its path. When the distance is close, accuracy doesn't matter, complete coverage is sufficient. Within a certain range, everything would be annihilated. A single wave merged into the endless fluctuations of the infinite Xuanhuan space. For countless ages, it had drifted with the currents, sensing and experiencing everything from the perspective of a single wave, understanding the myriad phenomena of the infinite Xuanhuan space. Suddenly, a unique wave emerged. The wave transformed into a tall man draped in a black cloak, none other than Lord Momen. Lord Momen carefully sensed this unique wave, his eyes lighting up. Among the countless waves, this one seemed ordinary at first glance. But Lord Momen, who had mastered the Xuanhuan Wave Dao, understood its extraordinary nature. Finally, it's here, I have waited for a long time, Lord Momen said with a smile. Luo Feng, the land of fluctuations has appeared. We need to depart immediately, Lord Momen transmitted telepathically, are you ready to set out now? Within the Blood Crane territory. Luo Feng had been in seclusion for over 900 epochs, creating combat techniques. He had already developed the Origin Destruction Combat Technique, Life-Severing Combat Technique, Shadow Blade Combat Technique, and Destruction Blade Combat Technique. Now, he was working on his fifth combat technique, the Clone Combat Technique. However, this final technique was still incomplete, riddled with imperfections. Of course I can set out, Luo Feng replied immediately. He had already agreed to accompany Lord Momen, and his combat technique system was now quite refined. This was the perfect opportunity to test his methods. Excellent. Lord Momen said, clearly delighted, we'll meet at the 10,000 Flame Mountains, a mysterious land near the Abyss of Destruction. I'll depart right away, Luo Feng said decisively. His clone on the 28th layer of the Abyss of Destruction immediately absorbed energy to grow into a main combat clone. Equipped with 2 suitable weapons, he set out immediately. During his expeditions in the Abyss of Destruction, Luo Feng had accumulated 15 weapons, all roughly equivalent in power to the void-severing blade. Although he could exchange destruction fruits for more powerful weapons at the Mountain of Destruction, Luo Feng wasn't in a hurry. He wanted to save up more destruction fruits to acquire even better treasures. Whoosh! Luo Feng's main combat clone left the Abyss of Destruction and, aided by the power of the Blood Crane territory, reached the 10,000 Flame Mountains in just one day. Before him stretched a vast expanse of flame-covered mountains, their fiery energy distorting the very fabric of space as it flowed like water, creating a surreal and magnificent spectacle. 7. Flame-type, mysterious lands have been discovered to date, with the most formidable undoubtedly being the Hellfire Prison Wall. Spanning the length of about 100 world clusters, it is an immense and vast domain. Compared to it, the 10,000 Flame Mountains seem quite ordinary, roughly equivalent in scale to the Blood Crane territory. I've never heard of the Land of Fluctuations before, Luo Feng remarked, genuinely curious. Even Momen, who masters the Xuanhuan Wave Dao, only stumbles upon it once every 100,000 epochs. It must be truly extraordinary. Luo Feng. Finally, accompanied by the voice, Lord Momen materialized, shrouded in a black cloak. I'm indebted to you for this trouble, Lord Momen said with a smile. He had long lacked a capable ally like Luo Feng. With Luo Feng by his side, he could repeatedly unleash the forbidden techniques of his Xuanhuan Wave Dao, offering hope for a deeper exploration of the Land of Fluctuations. Consider it a minor matter, Luo Feng replied with a smile. Where exactly is the Land of Fluctuations? Follow me. With a smile, Lord Momen enveloped Luo Feng in a wave of fluctuation, and the two vanished into thin air. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.